Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Make Mine Mayday, the show all about Spider-Girl and her world. I'm Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood webmaster of Spidey-Dude.com and executive producer of the Spidey Dude Radio Network. As always, before we get started, this show is obviously live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and so we might have some references to some visual aids in our live comments. We highly encourage you to come find us on youtube.com/Spidey Dude Radio Network. You can also support the show. We want to thank our patrons at patreon.com/SpideyDudeRadio. We want to thank Vinkman, Scott, Jurgen, Greg, Phoenician, Georges, Cindy, and Kale. Thank you guys for your support at patreon.com. They get some extra goodies and some extra benefits of being a part of the Patreon, and we really, really appreciate the support. We got some more stuff coming very, very soon. Of course, I don't do the show alone. I have my co-host, the host of the show, Kelly McDaniel. Hello, Kelly.
Hello.
Kelly is for those that are watching on YouTube, it says Kelly on mobile. So
yeah, we're on my mobile phone. So great picture. Sound is a little wonky, but we'll deal with it today.
So we got some comments already. It's Vinkman says, "Well, hello there." Speaking of Vinkman, I want to thank him here off the top for getting me the 7th issue of Amazing Spider-Girl. So really appreciate that, Vinkman. I really am thankful. He's also one of our biggest supporters on the Patreon. So thank you, Vinkman, for your support of the show. Always appreciated. So this episode, we are covering Fantastic Five, the 2007 miniseries, as the giant glare happens if you're watching me on YouTube. I have the trade paperback. Kelly was reading the individual issues. You can find it on Marvel Unlimited, right, Kelly?
Exactly. You can find everything but the last half of J2 in terms of MC2 on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, and as we always say, whenever that comes up, justice for J2. Hashtag.
Hashtag justice for J2. No one knows what we're talking about, but, those were the better issues. And actually, I believe we've got the artist for J2 on this run of Fantastic Five.
Yes, we do. And
yeah.
The now you can also, if you're looking for it, like there's going to be 2 Fantastic Five series. There's the first series. I've got the digest that was 5 issues long that came out in the second year of MC2. We covered that several episodes. Oh, wait, what?
Way back, yeah.
It was like episode 15, I think.
Yeah. So when you're looking for this one, you want to look for 2007, not 1999.
Exactly. You can definitely read the 99 books.
Read both. Both puts you at 10 issues each. So
yeah.
But there's a lot of story in between the other two in the original run of Spider-Girl. This is kind of our first chance of saying hi to them. Because we haven't seen, we'll see Franklin in the next episode in our run of Spider-Girl.
Mm-hmm.
But we really needed to get to this first so we understood what was going on.
Yeah, this is a very seismic moment for the team. We kind of talked about there wasn't a lot of game-changing moments for the most part. And Kelly corrected me when I said that last episode, because obviously there's a lot of game-changing moments in the final Doom.
There's a lot of, we'll talk about it, and that's we're going to mix things up a little bit today. We're going to go through our breakdowns and then talk about the series overall. And the reason I say this is because every single issue kind of keeps touching on the same theme over and over and over again. And I think hopefully people will pick it up as we do the breakdowns, but I feel like it's going to go into a larger discussion. And I just don't want us to be saying the same thing every single time. So obviously we might touch on do a quick little break and just talk about something quirky or funny. Cause in our first issue, the final Doom, talk about the title, the final Doom, knowing Doom, and especially this Doom, I totally feel like he's singing the final, when he says the final Doom, it's like he's singing the final countdown just so he can have his horn solo later. So
I've got some to say about that in a second.
yeah, so like clearly we'll touch base on these fun things, but I want to really talk about the nitty-gritty that is the story. And it also, it's a theme that we touched on last episode with the Lady Hawks as well. So I think it's because then, our next episode with Mayday is also going to feature some sacrifices May has to make, or choices May has to make that are hard. So we'll definitely kind of, like I said, touch base on those. But before we get ahead of ourselves, Funkos came in.
What?
So the Funkos came in.
Yeah, you want to see where mine's at? As I was apparently recording a voice text to somebody. Oops.
I just realized my box was damaged. Can I fight them on that? But also, like, I don't care at this point.
My dad got my Spider-Girl Funko. His exact quote to me was, "Missing something," with rolling on the floor emojis. Because he thought it was something of his, and he didn't pay attention, so he just opened it up.
I just feel like, they knew what they were doing. Because, I was going to compare them between the international version and their supposed US version that took a whole year. And so instead of sending me another one, even though I only ordered one, I get Little Miss April.
She's showing it to the camera for those that are on the audio edition.
Cruel joke. So
they straight up trolled Kelly after all the fuss that she made. They're like, "We'll show her. We'll send her the chase."
I know that sounds nuts, but at the same time, like, I did literally email every single board of director for the company that owns Pop in the Box. The only time, remember the first email we got about the delay?
Oh my
God. It
God.
came out 24 hours after I sent those emails and finally got a decent answer back.
Oh, I know. This has been a crucible. It has been, I've never seen the amount of issues with a Funko.
And nothing. There's no difference. There is no single difference from the international version other than this holographic sticker. Over a year.
Yeah.
For this.
So we will definitely compare.
When we can. Yeah, I'll take if you want to take photos of yours, I'll take photos of the quote unquote international version, and we'll compare them. I will say that this chase looks like it has a slightly better paint job.
Mm-hmm.
Or cleaner paint job, because I know with the international version, I had some eye bleed around the lenses. But, it is what it is. And, we got them. It's over.
It's finally over.
The saga is over. We don't have to ever deal with them ever again. I do not believe after this that they will engage in more MC2 at Pop in the Box. I think Mayhem got them excited, and so they did this, but this was clearly not right.
This did not at all.
Well, it was bad market. It was really, really misleading marketing. Because if they had just said that, they were selling it along with international sellers and, had admitted to a sticker delay, we would have been fine. Or if that, like I said offline before we started, if it is a clean paint job, like cleaner paint job than the international version, all they had to say at some point was, "Hey, this didn't meet our quality, so we asked for a second run." That's all they had to say.
Yeah.
Instead of acting as if we're all liars when we're like, "Hey, there's this international version. It's all over eBay for like half the price you're asking for right now." Like, don't sit there and go, "Oh, y'all are lying," and then cancel people's orders.
Yeah, it was just the whole thing. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum as we've been trying to keep you guys updated because I mean, we were telling people go buy this, go support this, go support the company, go support Spider Girl. The fact that it took a year, it took way too long, way too long,
and there was no transparency, no communication.
No.
So I mean, I said it before. From the bottom of my heart, I am very sorry about saying, "Hey, yeah, go buy this." It was just I wanted us to support Spider-Girl. I wanted us to show that, Spider-Girl was still a viable brand for Marvel. But the thing is, I think Marvel knows that. I don't think Pop in the Box being crazy like made any difference to that. They know that we'll buy it. I mean, my goodness, she was one of their first NFTs. Also, I think that who was that drawn by the NFT? Ron again? I think it was.
Yeah, maybe because it was like something that was original at least.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So, yeah, there's we don't have to buy from shady Funko Pop dealers. I guess is the moral of the story. Always research before you promote, and that is a lesson I will take with me. I will not just blindly go into everything because Mayday is on it. I should have learned that lesson in Spider-Verse, and I didn't, apparently. So
yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
What? You're ADHDing.
My ADHD. Sorry, I'm on the Wayback Machine to the Spider-Girl.
Okay, because we're talking about we're going on to history about the Fantastic Five Volume 2 before we fully start.
Mm-hmm. So this was released right after the cover dates. It was twice a month for the month of September cover dates, a month of October, and then obviously the 5th issue was in November. So this was kind of similar in release of how the most recent miniseries were. This was the third in the post relaunch or the first one of the pre-launch era. I'm sorry, but the third one since they started doing this concerted push, starting with issue 85. You had Last Hero Standing, Last Planet Standing. Then you had this, and it did okay. I think everybody was kind of excited because it seemed like every single summer for the last couple of years there was something to be excited about. And definitely at this point the engagement was still pretty strong on the Spider-Girl message board, but it was not nearly as much as it was like in the 2006 era. And you can definitely look when you're looking in the Wayback Machine, you can definitely look in like 04, 05, and 06. That's when they had a lot of like captures, and because I mean there was a lot of activity at the time on the message boards. So there was at this point, we're going to be covering the issues that were coming out concurrently. Next episode, obviously, that's going to be something we'll talk about. I do want to note that at this point, volume 8 of the digest was about to, or had already come out at this point. So the digest were still going strong. So there was still strong demand from the Scholastic side of things to continue publishing MC2. And so I think we were kind of in a pretty good space. I think the only one left, and Kelly, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, after this is the American Dream miniseries. That's an like MC2 miniseries.
Yes, yeah. So the next miniseries after this one is American Dream. I did not check my list of every MC2 appearance ever that I had made forever ago now. So I didn't check the order, but I do believe the next kind of like break we get from just nonstop Amazing Spider-Girl. That is not a title. No one use that, Marvel, please. Dear God, no.
Oh,
But I like it is all amazing Spider-Girl until like I think a little bit of ways before the last like major storyline,
mhm.
and the break's going to be American Dream for a little bit. I think that's I can't remember if that's 4 or 5 issues. To be honest, I've only like I haven't picked it up in years, so kind of like this. I didn't really pick this up, for a few years. I kind of skipped rereading it, and I really wish I hadn't. But I kind of understand why I forgot some of the things I forgot or like mixed up. I'll put it that way. Um, because like I said, it's over and over and over again. It's like the same. It hits. There's layers where you see these characters hit the same kind of story
Mhm.
of what makes a hero and the sacrifices heroes make. And so,
When you're reading it is in such a condensed format as we do when we go back and reread these. And I it's interesting because I hadn't, like you, I had not picked this up. It's been on my shelf for I don't know how long. And I just picked it up and to get ready for this episode. And I'm like, I hadn't read this in a long time. So it's almost like it's familiar, but it was like fresh eyes to me.
yeah.
Definitely American Dream is going to be one of those that I have not read straight up.
Oh, wow.
So I have not read that many. Looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong.
So I know that I have in our like episode list, although it's way down there, is I did want to do a like the America Corps run with Roger Stern.
Yeah.
Because Shannon's in it.
Yeah, Sharon.
So did you read that as well?
I read the first issue.
Okay.
But I have not read anything beyond the first issue.
Okay.
It was one of those. I don't know what happened. It didn't get put in my box when I was getting it at the time, and so I just forgot about it. And yeah, so
I vaguely remember that too. See, these are the things where it's like, because it's not my favorite issues, because I think we can kind of tell, like, if it's my favorite story, I know that story in and out, back, sideways. Like, I can tell you every little detail in the background of every picture. But like on certain stories, like I just skip over because it's like, yeah, it's great. I remember what happens, but then you don't reread it for a few years. And like I said, then when you have to pick it up for stuff like this, where we're having to break it down, you start seeing things that you forgot or you missed.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Lady Hawk thing. I had completely missed that. Whole origin.
You missed the whole issue.
I missed the whole issue. Like I'm like, oh, and you were like, how do you not know this? And I'm like, well, it's because I never had the issue, and I didn't. It was one of those things I didn't realize I didn't have it. Is the funny part, and so for me, it's been really, it's really cool. It's why I love doing this show so much. Is that it's really cool for me to go in and like read these books because I know with certain writers, and Roger Stern's up there with them, DeFalco and Roger Stern, and DeFalco was very sweet. He shared my my very emotional Facebook post about the end of CSC, but
Aww.
yeah, he shared it on his page. I accidentally tagged him. I didn't mean to. But
I mean, it's no 3 a.m. email.
Listen, I'm not sending him a 3 a.m. email asking if this photo of this random stranger is actually a photo of Ditko. Okay. I don't do that to the poor man.
We're joking with love. We're joking with love.
It's all love, buddy.
Yeah.
That's still one of my like if I come back on an episode like as a live caller for the live caller, that's one of those I have to bring up. Of one of my favorite stories is Brad, because we were on a Skype chat at the time. That was the funniest part. He's like, I think I found a photo of Steve Ditko, like it was like the Loch Ness monster, and yeah, it was pretty hysterical. It was literally 3 a.m. at that point, but no, getting back to what I was saying, like there's certain creators that I just know when I read them that I'm going to have a certain level of quality. Guys like DeMatteis, guys like Stern, guys like DeFalco. You know what you're getting. And look, for me, even, I know what I'm going to get with a Dan Slott story. Am I going to like it? It's a 50-50 shot. Zeb Wells, same way. Right now, I am liking his run. I'm not in love with his run like some others. Like 900 was a disappointment. It was good, but it could have been so much better. So, there's certain creators I just know what I'm going to get into. So, like when I'm reading these books by DeFalco, I know what to expect from the Tom DeFalco story. And I know I'm going to get a level of quality as my action figures just attacked Waylon because he tapped my shelf with his tail. So sorry about that noise. I just know what I'm going to get. And so coming back to this team is one of my all-time favorite teams. DeFalco and Lim, I've always had a fondness for when they've worked together. So when I open the book, I'm like, oh, this is Ron Lim's artwork. Oh, I was very pleased. So with that, we want to start the breakdown.
Yes, but I do also, there's a different look to this because of the penciler Scott Klobush.
I say Koblish, but somebody.
Koblish. Yeah. And then, and the colors, which I've got to like pull from Rob Rowe. Like,
yeah,
this, this isn't this looks a little bit different. It's a little bit more bombastic, a little bit more stylized, very 2007. But it works. It really, really works here. I like the little changes that we get to everybody's style, which kind of shows a little bit of time has passed as well for them. And so it's, like I said, to me, I really like the look of this comic book, but it felt so, even though, we've seen the artist and the inker do other things with MC2, these just felt different. It felt really different.
It felt like an event.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, it's definitely an event miniseries. It was planned as a miniseries. I want to say, yeah, like looking at I think this was like every 2 weeks. Yes,
it was every 2 weeks. Yeah. And that had been kind of the schedule that they had ran with on both this
and Avengers Next. Yeah.
Avengers Next, and Last Planet Standing.
Yes. Yeah.
Were weekly. Now, Last Hero Standing, though, that was weekly. That was a weekly book. That came out during the month of June when there was 5 weeks, 5 Wednesdays. So not unlike this past June. So so they kind of every time they did it, they made a big deal. This is also unique in that it's one of the first times, and it may have been the only time that they had a cover artist, which was very much something that is still in vogue now, but it really wasn't something you saw with MC2 books, and that was Clayton Henry. So if you're reading the trade like I am, it's actually the cover of it is the cover to issue 1, and then the back cover is the cover to issue 2. So
yeah,
definitely the outside cover, good artwork, but it's definitely different than the artwork you get on the inside. And like I say, this is such a great team of DeFalco and Ron Lim and Koblish, who did a great job with Pat's pencils on Last Hero Standing. And I just remembered Avengers Next also had a cover artist in Mike Ringo.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So it's not something that we saw very often. So it definitely makes it a lot more special. So with that, I'll be doing the rundown of issues 1 and 2, and then Kelly's going to do the last 3 issues, and then we'll give our overall thoughts, like she mentioned earlier. So let me get my notes up. All right. So this was cover dated September of '07. This was released August 11th of 2007. Our issue begins of the book with a big splash page of the newest MCU star, Prince Namor I, swimming determined to reach a destination. We've not seen him in a while, and we learn that 12 years ago, a great war ravaged Atlantis and caused massive destruction. Many of his people were killed, and he still mourns this loss. We learn that the Mariana Trench is not one of the deepest parts of the ocean, that it's actually the Great Atlantis Trench. It's far deeper. So he still goes down, down, down. For a dozen years, Namor has made this trek for supplies and, frankly, for his revenge. So just as he gets to his destination, he realizes suddenly that it's not going to be this time. You see, the man whom he was keeping captive has escaped. Of course, his escape was inevitable, for the captee was the man known and feared around the world as Dr. Doom. We then cut to Fantastic Five headquarters, and Reed is working on Ben's bio armor. Reed is making some adjustments and gets super sensitive when John walks in and possibly contaminates the room. Reed thinks,
"Hey, it's a medical area. Makes sense."
It does make sense, and John just walks in and moseys in. I'm trying not to call him Johnny because he's known as John here.
No, it's Johnny.
It's Johnny. All right, so I'm taking him more serious than Kelly is. Reed, of course, the reason that Reed is working on the bioarmor is that he thinks that the nano pieces that he put in the bioarmor are finally working, making it work as intended, and he's finally beginning to heal up. And because he's beginning to heal up, he won't need this armor anymore, and therefore he can start possibly become Ben Grimm again. John storms out the room. Sorry.
You misspelled it too. I just want you to know that.
Yes, I was typing this very fast. So John storms out the room when Susan, of course, stops him in her typical way using a force field. He then, of course, he lets him know, look, I was the leader of the Fantastic Five. I just wish that Reed would stop treating me like I'm still a kid. And he kind of then, of course, he goes out and talks to his wife, Lyja, who strangely isn't mentioned in the top box as Ms. Fantastic. He talks to her about maybe forming a new team. That since Reed's return, it's been kind of hard for them to be two leaders, and she's kind of expected this talk because, of course, it's kind of hard for a team to have two alphas and two people that are leaders. Outside, we see the silhouette of a woman who is nervous about walking in. But she decides that it's now or never and she needs to do it. She arrives to be greeted by the person at the reception desk as Mrs. Grimm. But actually, no, it's not Miss Grimm anymore. It's actually Miss Shannon Ventura. Sharon. Did I say Shannon? Sharon. I did that earlier, too.
Shannon's on our brain.
Yes.
American Dream is awesome.
Exactly. So Sharon Ventura, she's now going back to her, I guess, maiden name, and she wants to see her children now and talk to her ex-husband. We cut then to Latveria, where we see Doom arrive on a mountain and use a big rock to open this, base. And when the Doom bots are about to mobilize, he mutters the word Valeria, and they all kneel before Doom. He then requests that his rags to be destroyed and that he be properly suited up. Upon doing so, he begins his study of the Fantastic Five. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Ben is trying to reason with Sharon about the kids. And meanwhile, as this is going on, Franklin is trying to train them with Christoph Taurus. The kids, of course, being kids and being careless, inadvertently hitting each other. And eventually, Franklin gets frustrated because he's trying to get them to work as a team, and he puts a stop to it, saying that they need to learn to work together as a team if they want to eventually become a part of the F5. And that's when Sharon walks in. And the kids, of course, the kids are excited to see her. And
do we need, because it's Alice and Jake.
Alice and Jake.
Calling them kids, so I just want to make sure that it's clear.
Yeah.
The twins are named Alice and Jake.
but yeah, that she's there to get the twins, Alice and Jake, and Alice is really super excited to see her. She calls her Pumpkin, and which kind of embarrasses her a little bit, but you know, um, Ben internally is conflicted about the situation because he knows that the kids are going to be in danger by staying here, but he's also really concerned about Jacob because Jacob obviously has inherited his dad's hardened exterior, and so he understands what's going on. This is definitely an inner conflict with Ben and the situation. So we learn that Doom has a device that he used in the past to gain the power cosmic, and he's going to use it again to rule the world. Elijah and John are talking while Susan's trying to talk to Reed, and who is being Reed and is into his science. She is worried about Johnny, and she's also worried about Ben. And so as this is happening, Ben is out and about, and he's trying to clear his head. He's worried about Jake, that he is a monster like him, and that how can he sit there and be excited about being turned into Ben Grimm when his son can't become human like he potentially can. And just as he's starting to think that, he's attacked. Doom has arrived. Ben, of course, being Ben, he's going to fight him and says it's clobbering time. Only this time, Doom completely outclasses him and uses his powers to create a sphere of metal, using the bio armor to create this sphere and to try to kill Ben by throwing him into the Central Park Lake and suffocating him of oxygen. Doom tells the reader to prepare themselves. Well, actually, he's telling Reed this, outer monologuing, for Reed Richards is about to get the final doom. Dun dun dun. I'm not going to click the button. I'm going to be nice.
I mean, you can, honestly, for this, just click the button.
All right. There you go.
So before you go on to 2, I do want to mention, since we won't talk about it, doing all of it. 1, we got the 3rd mention in the MC2 about Islands of Adventure. Just throwing that out there. Because it exists in that universe, apparently. Universal Studios Orlando is there, and because this is also I believe this is every single time it's been mentioned, the Fantastic Five have been around, and twice exactly by one of their members.
I wonder if they have a licensing deal with Universal.
Well, they did at the time. I mean, and it's still there. So the agreement, theme park facts with Kelly. So the agreement is anything on the east of the Mississippi, Universal has theme park access to. And as long as it's kept maintained, they're allowed to have it. If you've ever been to Superhero Island at Islands of Adventure, there's the Hulk roller coaster, Doom's Fearfall, which is actually awesome and never has a line, and I don't understand why. I mean, it's a carnival ride. It's just one of those shoot up and downs, but it's beautifully themed. Obviously, Spider-Man. There's the Fantastic Four Cafe. There's like a cup ride with Storm. You have like 3 X-Men face characters. This is my thing. There is no Fantastic Four characters. And the amount of times that I feel like the Fantastic Four has been mentioned and there's like a cafe with really crappy pizza. I mean, it is. It's crappy pizza. It's a theme park. Although it's apparently gotten better. I don't know. I can't have it anymore. It was really bad back then. But
I'm a trip.
Huh?
Like, we've talked about making an Orlando trip. I'm gonna have to go to the Islands of Adventure, and we're just gonna have to. I'm gonna have to like get you and Bertoni and the gang, and we're just gonna have to get. We're gonna have to go and experience it.
Yeah, because Bertoni goes more than me.
Well, Bertoni has season passes because of his.
He's in Tampa. Well, he's in Florida.
He's in Florida, but it's a business expense write-off for him because of his working with kids.
Yeah.
So
fair.
he has like season passes at Disney and at Universal. So I'm insanely jealous of him for those things.
Yeah, but
that's his job.
Yeah, it's his job. It's just Disney World is meh right now. Anyway, I just wanted to mention though that,
Yes.
first, what the last time we saw Sue, she mentioned it, which is like the second time. No, that was the first time. And then somewhere in between that and the end, we got another reference. It's the third reference. And
Makes me think that DeFalco went to the Islands of Adventure and had a really good time.
well, I think that there was a mention too of like a Planet Hollywood-esque like Marvel cafe.
Mm.
And Spider-Girl was intended or thought of as a character.
You know what? Yes, I think Ron's posted about it.
Yeah, well, because I know he had like a breakdown of like the coloring and stuff, and I think it was for the suit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know he had mentioned something about like maybe doing. I guess they were thinking about putting whatever didn't happen at that cafe over at studios, but it never happened. So
things that we need to ask.
Answered, because I want to know if there's a prototype of that suit and where I can find it.
This is you in the dress all over again.
I feel like there's a better chance of me finding a prototype if it was ever made of the Spider-Girl suit than that dress. Like Mary Jane's wedding dress is gone. Although I still think it's someone from Marvel has it. I swear to you. Someone from that time has it somewhere. I don't believe that it fully got stolen.
We got to get like Jim Shooter. Like, like we got to ask Shooter.
We're very ADHD today, but that's fine. We're having important discussions about random things.
Exactly. I didn't take my meds today. It's fine.
It's okay.
But mentioning, go ahead and you want to finish your notes on this one, and then I'll get into my.
Yeah, no, that was like the main notes. Unless you really want to bring up the your headcanon before we go to the second issue.
Yeah, I'll bring the headcanon up at the end. Let's just do that.
We'll bring it up at the end. So let's go ahead and go to issue 2. I just knew like there's no place in like the overall story that I have to bring up the fact that we have an unofficial count of every time we see Islands of Adventure.
It's true. We pay attention to these things, guys. I know, Ron. If you're not watching us live, you're going to listen to the playback. So
yeah,
it is
a very important counter.
Exactly. Thank you to all those that watch us on the various platforms we're posting on. So we'll go to Fantastic 5 #2. Same art team came out 2 weeks later on the 25th of August. Still same cover date of September of 2007. All right. Issue 2 ups the ante with a 2-page opening splash page. Reed and Sue are being attacked by Doom, picking up moments after the events of last issue. Reed and Sue try to take on Doom, with Reed deducing, rightfully, I might add, that he has regained the power cosmic. And Franklin, of course, comes and joins the fight, but Doom dispatches him, stating that even though he has grown, he is still a child. Alice and Jacob rush to the scene with Sharon, and we cut to Ben, who is trying to fight like hell to get out of his cocoon made by his own armor. He just can't quit because Grimm's never been a quitter. After a flashback to the Yancey Street Gang's initiation of Ben, we go back to Fantastic 5 headquarters, where Kristoff arrives, and this does not make Doom happy. He calls him a traitor, which is, something that Doom does not approve of. Reed attacks and tries to take Doom out when Jacob then tries to join the fray and smash him in the face. But this does not faze Doom, and he is thrown in the next county. Actually, it's not the next county. It's more like 3 blocks, but next county sounded better. Alice sees this and attacks Doom in anger, and Doom dispatches with her quickly, saying that she thinks that she's killed her brother, but no, he has not killed her brother. He wants everyone to witness, his victory. So why would he kill people? It's Doom. He's very egotistical in that regard. 3 blocks north, Johnny and Elijah are talking to Taurus, and thinking about forming their own team. But Taurus, of course, is not having it. He's like, this is what part of the world's greatest super team do you not understand? We cut to the Central Park.
They don't even know their own son. Honestly.
He really does. Like, this is a kid that's like, I have been wanting to be part of the world's greatest super team my entire life, and you're like wanting to make your own? Come on, Dad. Like, really? Anyway, back at the Central Park lane in the cocoon, we have Ben, who is still trying to punch his way out of the cocoon. We get a bit of a flashback to the origins of the Fantastic Four and how they were created. Ben is still not giving up. And then we cut to the Fantastic Five headquarters. Doom is still being doomed. When Johnny finally shows up and Reed's ordering Johnny, which kind of throws Johnny off, that he needs to get help and warn the world that Doom's got the power cosmic. So then Johnny takes off. This, of course, makes Doom go chase him in earnest. And Reed was like, I did that on purpose. So Alice is kind of shocked that Johnny left, but that's because Reed's like, no, this is part of my plan. So Doom, of course, gets chased, and we finally in this issue get the flashback as to what happened and what caused Ben to gain the bioarmor. They were fighting Terrax, and Terrax was looking to win when suddenly Reed gets his black hole gun and fires upon him. And just as he's firing upon Terrax, Terrax tries to grab Ben. Ben then, of course, is seriously hurt. And we see for the first time the bioarmor, and that Reed explains that his injuries were so extensive and the damage so massive that he had no choice. The bioarmor was your only hope, thinking that it may heal over time, but it could take years. So that explains why Ben has been wearing this armor all this time. So
I believe we did get a
mention. Like, I don't think we ever got a flashback.
I don't think we got the flashback this in depth. I do believe, though, that there were flashbacks to certain parts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll double check. But like, this has been referenced before.
Yeah.
So like, we kind of knew what was going on. I do want to mention we also get a bunch of flashbacks of, like, as Ben is trying to get out of this thing, we do get flashbacks of kind of why he doesn't give up and the things with his life, and kind of see his perspective.
Yes.
On the origins of his powers to begin with, and his grit. And I do think that that's very nice in this issue. I think it's nice overall, especially for newer readers who maybe don't know everything about the Fantastic Four.
Yes, this is very new reader friendly. If you're like me and was only reading like Spider-Man, you knew enough about the Fantastic Four to get yourself in trouble, this was definitely very much welcomed. So Reed is trying to get a particular weapon when Doom shows up and says, this is the last thing you'll do. And Doom puts him into a ball and holds him in the palm of his hand. And finally he gets certain defeat. Victory is his, and he's laughing maniacally. Meanwhile, Ben finally has escaped his what would have been his coffin, but he then climbs his way out of the lake, grabs a tree and creates a bit of a cane, and it's clobbering time. The issue ends on a big giant splash page of Ben sans armor, but looks pretty serious. Looks pretty beat up to me. It's clobbering time, which takes us to issue 3. Yes. Kelly?
All right. So I'm ready to go for the breakdown, unless you have something you want to mention that you think doesn't apply. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll talk about that later.
Okay, cool. All right. So issue number 3. Cover date October 2007. On sale August 8th. 2007, so we're coming right up on the anniversary of it. What is that?
15 years?
Yeah.
Almost exactly.
I'm old. We're old. What happened? All right, so
old.
Yeah.
Too young
to Obviously, writer Tom DeFalco, penciler Ron Lem, ink Scott Koblish, and color Rob Rowe. Obviously, our editor is the great Molly Laser. And there is no title to these, it's just part 3. So, in Midtown Manhattan, as a work crew is shutting down for the day, the ever-loving Thing asks if he can use the cement mixer so he can patch himself up a bit and get ready to save the day from Dr. Doom. Meanwhile, Dr. Doom holds Reed in a literal ball as he admires, then destroys the armaments/tools the Fantastic Five have in their headquarters. He holds Johnny in a cube-like prison and has frozen Kristoff in a subservient bow. Doom gloats about thinking that Ben is dead and dismisses Alice, Franklin, Sue, Susan, and everyone else, calling them lesser allies, which seems really overconfident, but all right. We check in with our lesser allies, and Susan, who is convinced her Jake has died from Doom's blast, very similar to her own daughter, kind of thinking that, tries to get her daughter to go with her to safety, but Alice wants to stay and fight. Thankfully, Elijah and Taurus meet up with them, with Jake that they went to go save, much to Susan's ecstatic relief, and Jake stands with Alice on still wanting to stay and save the world. Susan realizes she can't really argue with superheroes, and this includes her own children. In what Doom calls the armory, he continues to gloat and belittle Reed while he destroys everything. Basically, Doom talks so much that he distracts himself, giving the Thing a perfect opportunity to come in and punch Doom in the face. As Doom and Ben square off, Doom decides that he and the Thing has to be at their prime for their fight, and using the powers cosmic, cures him using his mind blast. They fight, and Doom explains to Ben how obviously he needs to rule the world because zealots, and I literally wrote pot meets kettle here, I think, are threatening innocence, wars, genocide, ignorance, poverty, and hunger, that's happened in his absence, and he can fix it. Okay. Ben isn't really here for that and punches Doom through a few walls. Ben's cure falls away, and he realizes he hit Doom a lot harder than he thought, or so he thinks. This also frees Reed, Johnny, and Kristoff, and while they know it won't last, they get ready, and a giant Doom shows up and grabs Ben with one hand, as Doom, with his powers cosmic, is virtually invincible. Wow. Invincible. This is going to be a hard fight, huh? Johnny and Kristoff fight back, making Doom drop Ben, and Reed cushions his fall and whisks him away to safety. Doom makes quick work of Johnny and uses Kristoff's powers against him, whisking him away in a power tornado, blasting into the hangar bay looking for Reed and Ben, calling out that it might be a trap. Elijah and the kids are ready to fight, and Doom announces he's not afraid of anything. Sue hits him with an invisible batting ram of sorts, pushing Doom into position so Reed can hit him with a stasis ray. While the Fantastic Family stands together, they hear a clapping behind them and find out that the Doom they caught is really a cosmic-powered robot, as Doom knew no human could hold the power cosmic. Yeah, this is going to be a long fight. Turns out Doom is using his robots to lift the entire island of Manhattan, and because Doom is such a kind ruler, he gives his foes a choice of punishment. Throw the whole city into the sun, or exile all of their kids into space. Reed reluctantly makes the choice of the kids over the city, and Reed falls to his knees while Doom laughs. To be continued. Got any thoughts before I go to issue 4?
Just jump into issue 4.
Alrighty. So cover date is October 2007, and it was on sale August 22nd, 2007. Doom is now back in Latveria, and we see one of his bots blast through the UN Security Task Force, trying to push them out of his land. He tortures Namor and has stretched Reed out like it almost looks like he stretched his face out to look like a blanket. It is grotesque and body horror in its finest. I fully support Sam Raimi making a Fantastic Four movie. The kids are in the ship. Everything but life support are offline, and a Doom bot is just pulling them around until support gives out or Doom finds them useful again. Alice is understandably freaking out, but Taurus has faith that they can get out of this, and Franklin thinks he might know a way. Meanwhile, Doom infiltrates all media and plays a message basically showing him destroying the UN and asks and then demands peace via total obedience by threatening every major landmark in the world. Yes, that's totally benevolent and just and not petty at all, Doom. Really cool. Yeah, totally.
My favorite part is I graciously await their response.
It's I mean it's narcissism in its finest, but it's definitely giving me that the gaslighty douchebag vibes. Like, yeah.
Doom would be a gaslighting douchebag.
Yeah. He is one of the Paul brothers, for sure. Yeah. You're welcome for that. China fires nuclear weapons on Latveria, not wanting to stand down to an obvious threat. The bots destroy the weapons, then destroys China to make sure the example is set. So, yeah, really great leadership there, you dictator. See what I did there? Meanwhile, as the kids are whisked away towards the cosmic storm area where their parents got their powers, Franklin thinks if he was to absorb the powers from the cosmic rays, he can power himself enough to at least get the drop on their robot babysitter. Alice is very concerned by this idea, and even though Jake and Taurus are hesitant of this idea, they do as their de facto leader says and helps him. They take the protective pieces out of a room and leave to let Franklin absorb the rays, and Jake has to hold Alice back when they start hearing Franklin's screams. And we see Franklin turning into this bright yellow gold light. Back in Latveria, we see that Doom has used Reed's body to wrap around the other members of the Fantastic family, using Reed's body as a prison. If they try to break free, they would knowingly be severely harming Mr. Fantastic. He holds Susan by her hands, along with Kristoff, and tell me if I'm wrong, because he shows back up with his clothes later, but isn't he just like in his mask and underwear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in his boxers and his mask.
I have questions. I have questions.
I can't stand you.
Kristoff? And it's just Kristoff.
He was wearing the Fantastic Five suit. And he just cannot stand it. So he has to be in his...
I just needed, like, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't...
You're not hallucinating.
Okay. Anyway, so he's holding Susan by her hands, along with Kristoff, who's been stripped of everything but his mask and underwear. And Susan begs for Doom to let her kids go, but Doom refuses and then hits Kristoff for trying to manipulate him into giving in to Susan's request, because literally Kristoff was like, just let her have her kids and go, man. You know, as he's hung up by his hands in nothing but his underwear. So after the storm, the cosmic ray storm, the kids go back to check on Franklin and see him on the floor in obvious pain. Gold light is surrounding him. Franklin isn't sure if he's safe to be around, but he can feel that he's changed, and he knows that he needs, even if it might be temporary, like Alice hopes, they need to get the ball rolling. Franklin tests out his powers, seeing if he's been supercharged enough to reach the robot outside and tear him apart. Franklin's head turning into a skull as he does this. The robot senses something is amiss before it blows up, and Franklin succeeded. but he's now feeling very nauseous and has a killer migraine. Jake offers to check everything online to make sure everything's back online and asks Franklin to please sit down and rest. Doom has the U.S. cornered, and the U.S. agrees to surrender, something that excites Doom. And Reed reminds Doom that he can never be satisfied until he humbles Reed, which is something he will never be able to do. To be continued. All right, got anything to say before we move on?
Nope. Ready to wrap.
Let's conclude this miniseries. Fantastic Five, number 5. Cover date is November 2007. It was on sale September 12th, 2007. Obviously, the title is Part 5. So, Reed and Namor start to kind of tag team Doom about his ego, causing Doom to leave and walk. I wrote a Sentinel, but it's the normal Doom bots. Speaking of which, they have like huge statues of in the queue at Doom's Fearfall, and they're great. Anyway, the original Doom bots, who are coming to tell him of reports of disturbances in the city. Doom says he has far more pressing concerns and to not concern him with this. So naturally, we cut to these disturbances and see a very skulled out Franklin and his team making quick work of the Doom bots as they head to the castle. Taurus is pretty jealous of Franklin's supercharged powers, and Alice reminds Taurus that we don't know what consequences might happen to Franklin for doing this. Jake reminds them all that they'd still be in space if Franklin hadn't risked his life, and he appreciates the possible sacrifice that Franklin gave for this. He's a real hero in Jake's book. Taurus agrees, saying that they should make their own team. But Alice isn't so sure. This adventure is proving to be more than she bargained for, and she just wants to move back with her mother in LA and stick to mall crawling over playing the hero. Franklin asks his teammates to table this discussion so they can rescue their parents and save the world. In Washington, D.C., the president is talking to Mainframe, Vision, and Tony Stark in secret of sorts, as clearly the surrender was a ploy. Or rather, it was basically to buy the U.S. some time to maybe find a weapon to take Doom down. Not that Stark or Mainframe have a ton of ideas in that department, at least considering the time frame that they have. Doom is in deep contemplative thought about what Reed said and decides, frustratingly, after he breaks a piece of his own castle, to play Reed's game. He sets everyone free, and Sue blasts one of the Doom bots to, or was it a Doom bot? Yeah, Doom bot to bits. The team sees how Reed has been snaked through the castle and make a plan to take out the rest of the robots. And as Ben says, that they will have to go without him since he can barely stand without his armor. Lyja turns into some scroll armor and wraps herself around Ben's wounds, which if that ain't family, I don't know what is. Doom frees Reed and decides that he'll let the Infinity device that he's made determine who possesses the greater brain power, and it's programmed to transport the loser's mind to the crossroads of infinity, an endless trip through time and space. Namor begs Reed not to play the game, that Doom must have rigged the device already, but according to Doom, Reed has no choice, because if Reed doesn't play, his teammates will be immediately executed. The team in the castle start beating up the Doom bots, clearing a path to the main computer, but Kristoff advises them that they need to go to the hidden one on the lower level, and he leads the way. He's also clothed at this point. He found his clothes.
Thank God.
He's not running around in his underwear this whole time. As one of the bots informs the Cosmic Doom bots about the castle being under attack, 30 Doom Cosmic books, 30 Doom Cosmic bots starts to immediately head back, ready to fire and protect their home base. The kids see the backup go to the castle, heading to it. Meanwhile, we see Doom and Reed mentally plugging into the machine, with Reed being able to see Doom's intimate thoughts, which Reed needs to spill, to be honest. Doom's ego trip is too much for me. So Reed should just let that fly. The team in the castle are trying to get the computer to work as the Doom bots close in fast. Sue uses a force field to protect the team, It's getting to the wire when Kristoff can complete shutting down the failsafe, and we see the Doom bot surrounding Reed and Doom collapse as Doom has made sure that they would blast Reed if he was to start winning. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., and assuming everywhere else in the world, the Doom bots have all shut down, not just at the castle, and Tony warns not to use the robots or try to clone or replicate anything Doom has made. Trust him on this. We cut back to Reed and Doom, who, through using the box, are seeing each other's thoughts, and Doom is seeing Reed's life and growing angrier and more spiteful, where Reed finds sympathy and compassion towards Doom, which seems to infuriate Doom quite a bit. Reed offers to work together to save them both, but Doom refuses, and the box explodes in electricity. An instant later, both teams find Reed and Doom deathly still and the box gone. They free Namor, and he explains that he saw during the Infinity Box duel that he thinks that Reed sacrificed himself to save Doom, both now in a catatonic state while their mental selves are presumably on a trip through all of space and time. A few weeks later, Franklin is talking to Kristoff and Sue via video chat. They are searching for more of Doom's weapons, like caches in Latveria, and plus Sue doesn't want to leave Reed, especially in the state that he's in. His body and Doom's remain quite strong, even though they are in a essential coma. Sue asks Franklin how he's doing. We see Franklin's new costume, a full body suit with a metal mask and a thin eye, slit area that is just irradiating gold light. Franklin advises he is adjusting to these changes, but not to worry. He's confident that Kristoff can eventually find a cure for him. Franklin thinks to himself after the call he might put on a brave face for his family, but he's still reeling from these events. He's now a radioactive freak and keeps losing a parent. But Johnny checks on him, and we find out that Alice did leave with Susan, hanging up her superhero costume for a more mall-friendly one. She only ever did this for her twin brother to begin with. Franklin asks if Johnny is still planning on branching out with a team of his own, and Johnny tells his nephew that he would have never really left the Fantastic Five. It's family. He might butt heads with his brother-in-law, but he'd give anything to have him back the way he was. Franklin asks what the team is supposed to do now after all the losses that they've suffered. Johnny tells Franklin that they will do what they always do. Suck it up and continue to protect the world, because they're the Fantastic Five, with a little tourist in the background sighing, saying he can't wait until they're the Fantastic Six. The end for now.
Yeah, so the only extras that you get are the covers, the actual sketch covers.
Yeah.
Of the which I actually like better than the colored covers.
Yeah.
Personally, it's not that I don't dislike the colors. It's just I feel like the pencils really pop. So, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Doom, when he says the final Doom.
Yeah.
That it would be, he's singing it to the tune of the Final Countdown. And I mean, if anybody has Europe on speed dial, it would be Doom. Doom requires your need for epic background music. My headcanon is now officially accepting this as part of the national budget for Latveria. I really liked the opening issue. Really, it was a strong opening. I just really liked the opening salvo with Namor, and Namor acts in this mini not like the arrogant prick that he normally can be. The compassion that he shows Reed and towards the end of the story is something that you don't often see with Namor. So I really appreciated that character bit, because even though that they have been, sworn enemies, he's very much an anti-hero, and and the world at large is going to get to meet him in the new Black Panther movie coming out later this year. So I just really like Doom. Doom is one of those villains that I just really have always had a bit of a fondness for. And he's very one note. He's very
Yeah.
one note. He's very melodramatic. But I love it. It's just it's and you know, he just his arrogance will always be his undoing.
Well, his arrogance gets on my last nerves, but that's a part of what makes Doctor Doom Doctor Doom.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, that's one reason why, and the actor's name is escaping me, but the guy that played Cole on Charmed,
Julian McMahon.
yes, that's to me, that's why he was like the perfect Doom.
Oh yeah, because I mean he was listen, he was not the problem. In fact, I felt like he was.
The actors were the problem, and I will defend those movies because for the time they were great.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, and honestly, they're still great. They're still like, go watch them. They are full on camp, but when you watch them as camp,
Yeah, look, I felt like the casting of that film was great. I'm telling you, the most important MCU casting is going to be the Fantastic Four. Because I don't think John Krasinski as Reed. I just think that was like a fun nod.
No, I think that was a joke, and I'm glad it was a joke. I wouldn't mind Krasinski actually directing it, although I actually really, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, you almost need a Sam Raimi, you need a horror, you need a little camp when it comes to Fantastic Four, which I feel like is the main concern I have.
I am fascinated at how they're going to integrate the FF.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm really, look, I've always, this is one of, I really enjoy this miniseries because I just love the way that this miniseries was written.
It harks back to a time where the voice of the Fantastic Four, like it's writers who, for better or worse, regardless if you like their run or not in actual 616 Fantastic Four, this harkens back to a very, because it's the whole classic vibe of it, but it harkens back to like where the main focus of the Fantastic Four was family. They are family. And I feel like that's been lost. I'm not putting that on Mr. Slott because I don't think that I think that was lost before him.
I have not read his
I haven't read his run either, and that's what I'm saying is like I can't judge it beyond what I've seen, like the little bits I've seen. And so it's hard to kind of come back to that, but like that's also a whole other discussion on me feeling like Marvel's kind of lost.
They've lost the plot when it comes to, look,
not a lot of, it's not just, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's because you can't always make something new after, without winding up just taking everything away.
They've got to bring in somebody like a Spencer to come in and say, okay, I have a reverence for these characters. And I think that Slott, I kind of did feel that he
tried, I think.
He was probably of everybody that I had seen in terms of the modern writers, was probably the most, was the one that made the most sense to me because how he wrote some of my favorite Slott issues are the ones that involve the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And I felt like he wrote them really well when he had them in Spider-Man books. So I kind of felt like, okay, that's like, to me, the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man are his forte. I don't, and I'm not saying he can't write other things, but I think that's like his very much.
Yeah, we'll obviously we'll touch base on my gripes because it has nothing to do with. It has nothing to do with. I don't know. Like my thing with Slott has always been how he writes women. That has not changed. That will not change.
Yeah.
Well, I would like it to change, but I don't think it's going to change. Just from his attitude on how he takes that criticism. But we'll talk about that when we get to it in
That
this.
a big episode.
Yeah, but in any case, yeah, no, I mean, I think the thing that makes this so special is it's family. Like literally, we have way more than 5 team members here.
Look,
We have like 10, I think, maybe.
yeah,
Because we got Jake, we got Alice, we got their mother Susan,
just on the first.
Ben, we've got Franklin, we've got
Yeah.
Sue and Reed and Taurus and Elijah and Johnny. That's a lot. And Kristoff is there too, and he's very clearly a member of the family and in his own way. And so that's kind of this. You have this big crazy family.
It very much is the part of the Hickman run that I think that a lot of people liked was it being the Future Foundation and it being the family, right?
Yeah.
And you have all the kids and they're training the next generation of superheroes in a lot of ways. And so I think that prototype definitely was set up here in the way they did with MC2. And obviously the DeFalco run, Fantastic Five is what if, Paul Ryan and Tom DeFalco's run continued.
Yeah.
It's very much the spiritual successor to it. And I mean, he was the artist also on the first 5 issues of the other, well, it ultimately became a miniseries. But definitely, you can definitely, especially if you're following along in Spider-Girl, this really, really, really works with these other stories. The Lost in Space story, we brought back Sue and Reed. They didn't get a chance to really have the impact because it was such a big event with the last hero and last planet stand.
You don't really get a good feel of Jake and Alice.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's funny because the way that they read here is almost like, oh, you should know who they are and their personalities. And the thing is like we have a little bit, but we never got like enough.
We got more Taurus than anybody else.
Oh yeah, well just his character in general. Like if he's not the most bombastic salesman, like he is the hype man. So if he's not out there, like especially because again, most of what we know comes from May's point of view.
Right.
She's probably only really hung out with Alice and Jake one time because the last time we saw them in Last Planet Standing and even in Last Hero Standing, because I believe are they in there too? I can't remember.
Yes.
So the thing is that though, they're busy fighting very powerful beings with everybody else and kind of lost in shuffle. So we don't get to see them have moments. So when we see them here, yes, this is written through a different perspective. May's nowhere in this miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
So these are people that have lived with the twins. They've known the twins all their lives. And so there's almost this set of like, we get the feelings that Jake is a chip off the old block. Although he's a lot chippy, like he's very happy, very sure of himself because Ben and Susan have done a great job with him, and being a very positive, upbeat, kind of happy-go-lucky kind of dude. Very chill. I think he'd get along with J2 really great. And now I wish I could see Zane and Jake hang out, play video games.
They would sit there. Can you imagine them doing boxing matches? Like
no, because what they do is they would be sitting in like someone's living room playing
Call of Duty.
Maybe Call of Duty. I would say like
Halo.
Like Nintendo, like Smash Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Super Bros. Yeah.
But yeah, so like, that's I don't know. I get the feel of like they'd be super bros. And really
friends.
They'd be super positive bros, which is great. They have a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can definitely see the influence of Ben
Mhm.
because Ben. It's funny because the dichotomy between what you see with Jake in terms of his dialogue and what you see with Ben with his inner monologue is Ben still sees himself as a monster. Jake is like, I'm me. I am who I am. He accepts who he is. Like his mom's like, I think you got taller, and he's like, really cool. Like he's
Yeah.
excited, and
Yeah. But
it's it's
it
fascinating to see.
well, it ties on to like, so, Alice keeps asking, like, did you, like, asking Franklin, did you really, like, not think about other things you could do? Because Franklin just, like, he accepted that this was going to be his life. And so he didn't think of anything else. I think that Jake had a similar mindset. We know Taurus has a similar mindset.
Mhm.
Alice is really like the only one out of the kids that really went, okay, I don't have any other choice. I mean, I I don't know Kristoff's 616 backstory. Like, I don't remember him as a kid because, again, I didn't super read that era.
This is
Um,
I had Josh on speed dial and be like, hey, give me an up because like he one thing I'll say about Josh, he he deep dove into Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, and so he can tell
yeah,
you the whole thing with Kristoff because it's a
yeah.
whole saga.
Oh, no, no, it is. It's a whole thing. So it's like, Kristoff, because he's a little bit older than them, or a good bit older than them, honestly. He's, even though he's kind of on their side, it's, we know that he's kind of accepted this. Alice is very hesitant. Alice only did this because she wants to make sure her brother, is confident and sure of himself, and make sure that her brother is going to be okay, because she's very protective of him and his, you know, just, that's, that's her brother. And she knows that she can kind of get away with not have she doesn't have to put on the suit. She doesn't have to use her powers. She can walk away. And is this really for her? Versus, Jake is very like, look, I look like this. There's nothing else for me. So I'm gonna be the best I can be.
If there's
And
a destiny type thing, and you see that with definitely with Franklin and him, you
yeah,
know.
exactly. And so there's definitely that with them. So, like, for my notes, like, I literally wrote, like, this is just a seriously rich story for what almost winds up being, like, honestly, for the most part, winds up being a send off to the Fantastic Five. We
Mhm.
really don't touch base with them ever. Like, we see them in bits and pieces, but we don't really touch base. Like, we don't get a Lost in Space story again.
Which
But
is
this is it, you
yeah,
know?
Amazing Spider Girl kind of hyper focuses
Well, I mean, that's what they were. I'm
on.
on the dichotomy of, I love this world, so I will never say no, but I can also stand, especially just from a perspective, if the title says Spider Girl, it should probably focus on Spider Girl.
Right.
And this universe is slowly, especially during the time that Marvel is dealing with at this time in 2007, they're having to make some cuts. And unfortunately, Spider Girl is I mean, or not unfortunately, obviously, we love Spider Girl, but in terms of the worldview, Spider Girl is the flagship. Fantastic Five is not.
No, no. And
Not by a long shot.
because now it's no longer an imprint.
Yeah.
Those other stories towards the end of volume one kind of were made to tie up those loose ends for those fans that read that early part of the MC2. But really, it's here and it's Avengers Next where it's no secret that there wasn't ever a Wild Thing miniseries again. It's no secret that there wasn't another.
But
Um,
look,
uh,
I stand by my statement. Well, things should have never had a series.
yeah, I still, to me, I would much rather had a Stinger series because
Yeah.
did you see the costume?
Oh, yeah. But I mean, okay, when it comes to the Ant-Man movies, that's just like MC2 references all day long. I don't know why. Makes, well, I mean, I sort of know why, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense, but, like, I'm here for it because we gotta hope,
I
even
got
though hope is not hope. Um,
I get it.
Unless we're dealing with multiverse, since this is a part of the multiverse saga, and we see the Red Queen. That'd be fun. Anyway, I mean, obviously, would it be our Red Queen? It wouldn't be.
It'd be a
our
version.
stuff exactly, but that would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
Kevin Feige, if you're listening, please. Thank you. Bye. But yeah, no, like in terms of Fantastic Five, we'll see them briefly going forward, especially in the next story, I believe, but we'll never really get the closure that this kind of give, because like this doesn't give us closure. Like it feels like it's setting up other stories that we just never really got.
It's interesting because this is definitely a thing with Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you see these miniseries like written by DeFalco and written by DeMatteis and stuff like that. And like Peter David's Symbiote Spider-Man is a classic example of they write this self-contained miniseries, but they leave just enough that it can be picked up upon at a later date.
Yeah. It's just, we're not, unless, unless we get some kind of Spider-Girl mini or one shot in this Edge of Spider-Verse, End of Spider-Verse thing going on, we're probably never going to see what happens to Franklin and if he gets a cure or if he becomes the new oh god
Psylord.
No, well, he is Psylord, but I'm talking about like because the skull. Is it really bad because I'm blanking? Because it's a little late that my brain is just going Nick Cage.
Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Ghost Rider. Thank you. Yeah. Because he definitely is giving Ghost Rider vibes there. So we never really touched base on that because that is a major thing for Franklin too. Because think about how many times. So, in this, and like, I'll kind of go into like the main thing here because we're kind of nitpicking, but like, I'm going to go deep dive on this since we really won't touch this again. Yeah. Think about all the times where we've been told how cute he is and how much of a heartthrob he is and how everybody's got these little posters, including May, of Franklin. Like, he is like the, at least the times when we were getting that, he was like the young Leonardo DiCaprio. We've talked about face, like actors or something we'd like to see play them. Like I've been using Lucas Till, who is our MacGyver / Angel in the X-Men movies that shall not be named. But, like I said, like he's a cute, very attractive young man who, even though he probably isn't necessarily super upset about his looks, he does now have this serious change, something that Ben would understand.
That helmet is also very similar to the helmet that Ben wore whenever he got his face clawed during Secret Wars too.
Yeah,
not the first one.
Yeah, but it's similar to that as well. Like it probably honestly could be that helmet in a certain degree, certain fashion. It's there's a lot there with Franklin. Like this has fundamentally changed him as a person. And this is what I want to talk about because like when we go to the next, and we'll talk about it a little bit next time, because we'll see him, but like the change in attitude is something that May picks up on immediately. And she doesn't know why. We get to see it here and we get to sympathize with him here, but like we never get to see him really process all this. And then two, again, he's gone from not having really either of his parents, but knowing like the big secret that really, his dad is up in space taking care of his mom, to now, finally getting his parents and being happy. And now his dad is gone.
He gets his mom back, but it's the monkey's paw. He gets his mom back, but then she's got to attend to her dad or his dad.
Yeah, he doesn't get his parents, and that's all he's ever wanted. And now he's almost worse off for it doing everything he could to save them. But that like I said, that goes into the major point here. So like,
Yeah.
the MC2 has now lost Reed, which is also a huge major thing for Marvel Comics, period. Any universe that loses Reed generally has a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, look at the last Secret Wars mini. You didn't have Reed in there, and Doom ran amok and
Yeah. I
tore
mean,
us.
well, even like if you're just a casual fan, think about all the gasps and screams from from Doctor Strange when Wanda
Yeah,
um killed him.
made him into salami.
I mean, I saw it as spaghetti, but yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. Honestly, probably my favorite part about it. But that's because I have a love-hate relationship with 616 Reed.
616 Reed is both
He is my favorite jerk face, and
he's a great character, but he's also an oblivious jackass.
he is, yes, no, like he is. It's fine though. It's fun. Like, so again, I enjoyed the scene. But anyway, so again, MC2 has lost Reed, sacrificing his mind to not only save the world, but also to attempt to save Doom from his own hubris. We see Franklin, who really, is one of the most selfless heroes I think that we've seen ever in a comic. Because every single time we've seen Franklin up to this point, what has he done except jump to help everybody? Even if he's like kind of being a little bit of a brat about a next, he still runs in to help them. Like he will drop whatever he can to do what he can.
Integrity runs in his veins.
Yes.
He's going to do the right thing 100% of the time, even when nobody's looking. Like that is a fundamental part of this version of Franklin Richards.
Which is not the case in any other universe.
Well, yeah, I mean, because here's the thing. I mean, Franklin becomes this Deus ex machina.
Yeah.
After DeFalco leaves Fantastic Four, and then the whole Onslaught thing happens, and then you have the imagization of the FF and the Avengers, which again, when I tell people that, like when I tell modern people that at one point Marvel didn't believe in the Avengers so much that they basically gave it to Image to reimagine the Avengers, people look at me like I have three heads.
Well, I mean, that's just because nobody fully understands
right
the wacky world of comics, unless you have been a fan and been through the trenches.
Yeah. When I tell people like I'm a fan of on like social media profiles, I have put the phrase, I'm a giant fan of Marvel. I have been a giant fan of Marvel probably a lot longer than you have.
Marvel has given me trust issues, and I feel like you're not a true comic fan until Marvel gives you trust issues. I feel like literally, I think that's a badge of honor. Like when you have to discuss your trust issues with a therapist and you bring up something Marvel Comics did to you as a child.
And I mean, look, I'm not the one that's going to be like going up to like comic creators and ranting about what my should be. Yeah, I know you will. At the same time, I'm also like, I understand that this is the great thing about MC2 versus 616. MC2 and MCU have a very clear direction by one person that the buck stops with. And I think creatively, it's more so in MC2 than with.
Yeah, it's so the thing with MCU is that there is supposed to be a team that is making sure everything connects appropriately.
Mhm.
Very much like a kind of like what the MC2 feels like and what the MC2 was supposed to replicate
Right.
from the heyday of Marvel, which
Mhm.
is what everybody's kind of almost talking to each other and kind of knows what's happening in universe at the same time.
Right.
That the bullpen, right?
Yeah, the Marvel
Yeah.
bullpen.
Yeah. So again, that's kind of this vibe, which the thing with the MC2, it's because it was honestly like a, you know, we've talked about this. There's not that many that clearly nothing changes the entire time that we read this. Pretty much, we've got a handful of writers depending on what side story is going on, what mini series,
Mhm.
and it's very collaborative, it feels like. And from what what we understand, but two, it was, it really was just a team of people versus at this time in Marvel and even now in Marvel, it's a very vast number of people, and you kind of can't expect everybody to all. I mean, that's at this point the editor's job to take a
From
fine tune hand. We could go into that all day too.
Oh, and I had a very illuminating interview with Chris Dedmond on Radio Horror. We did kind of a collab thing. He brought me on with the artist that did the Morbius series. He also did a few issues of like the Spencer run, and like it was very illuminating the questions that I asked about specifically his time with Spencer
Mhm.
and how he didn't even deal with Nick Spencer. He was
Yeah,
dealing almost exclusively with Nick Lowe. And so, because he was being brought in to like draw pages and everything was so
I,
chaotic at the time.
I'm aware of how it works now.
Yeah.
Like for most people, I'll put it that way, because I don't think that it really depends on the book. It really depends on the team, still to a degree. But I kind of know how it's currently running. But again, I don't think that's how this was run, and I think that that's where we're seeing a lot of these pros. Not to say that there probably isn't some cons, because always, but still.
I,
But yeah, like I was trying to say before we like derailed again,
sorry.
somebody needs, I guess Vinkman needs to like come back with a derailment counter for this issue or this episode. But that's fine. Like, we're having fun, I think.
We're having a good conversation. That's
Yeah, it's a good conversation. But yeah, so the thing about this book overall, what I really wanted to say on it is, again, we see Franklin, who is one of the most selfless heroes that I've ever read in a comic, do what is necessary to save his team and get them home so they can save their parents, and he does so valiantly. But now he has lasting consequences for doing what was necessary. And even then, he's kind of lucky compared to his father doing almost the exact same thing to save a man who has shown nothing but contempt and evilness towards him and his family. This story gives us great examples in showing that sometimes the right choice, or the hard but best choice for the greater good, can result in a sacrifice for the one making that choice. That just because it's the right choice doesn't make it easy or simple. But with great power, there must also come great responsibility, right? And sometimes we have to do the hard, painful things when it comes to that responsibility. And that's really what we've seen. We've seen it in literally, there's a situation in every single issue here in the miniseries that brings this up. We just got done seeing those consequences from 100 with Lady Hawk. We're going to go into this next episode with Carnage, seeing the choices that May has to make, and those consequences.
Yes.
And I think that that's the thing, and that's something that I think a lot of people misunderstand. They misunderstand that there must also come, because that's very important in that phrase, and it gets taken out all the time. That
Yes.
just, great power comes great responsibility. Like, no, like you don't get responsibility because you have that power. It's because you have that power that you need to be responsible with how you use it. And even when you do everything right and you make that choice using what you have, you can still get hurt. And it doesn't have to be physically hurt. You yourself might not get hurt. Somebody else could get hurt. And how you handle that and how you see that not so pleasant reality, like you don't just win the day. And I think that that's a lot of things people forget, because that's an essence of what makes Peter Parker Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't save the day and get the girl. He doesn't save the day and his aunt's cancer is magically healed or whatever. Like, things, he still has to make that choice. And things will not always, you can do, what is that quote from Star Trek, from Picard, that you can do everything right and still lose.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of, yeah, you can do everything possible right and still fail. Thank you, Neil. Because the thing is that things aren't going to always magically work out because you did the right thing, but that doesn't mean that you stop doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you know who you are and you know what you must do, and you're going to help everybody else, and you're going to be a productive member of society and help people, you have to be aware that sometimes making those sacrifices for the greater good or for somebody else may not help you. And I think that that's, like I said, I think that that's something that is being very hit over the head here. These last 3 episodes we're going to talk about, but also just in these issues. But it's still an important lesson to be reminded by. And I think it like I said, it harkens to comics of old. It's a lesson that I think has kind of been forgotten in a world of instant gratification, that sometimes you can be the good person and not get satisfaction.
It's very much the mentality that the creators had too. I mean, they come in, they do their work, and they have a fan base that comes in and they consistently make sales, and everybody tells them that they're supposed to fail, and yet they continue and keep chugging along. And this book and this universe was the little engine that could. It never stopped going for the longest time. And we're in the heyday of the MC2 in terms of it just kept going. And, I can tell you, if you have not gone back and got Unlimited, particularly done by Ron Lim and Tom DeFalco, issues 3, 4, 5, and 6 are incredible books of Spider-Man Unlimited you need to grab, because even the first two, especially if you like Carnage, go grab them, because those are just some of the Doc Ock story in issue 3 is one of the best Doc Ock stories of all time. I really, really liked the Thunderstrike story that they did, the Human Torch story that they did together. They did a great job. Now Ron Lim stayed on through the Clone Saga, and it was written by the late Tom Lyle, which they weren't nearly as good. But I just highly encourage you to go back and find those, in the dollar bin, the $2 bin or whatever at your comic shop, because they're really good. Great team. Go get this miniseries if you don't have it. The trades are not terribly expensive. The trade isn't terribly expensive. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on. I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, if you're still finding it for sale, yeah, because it's been out of print forever. But yeah, no, I mean this is an amazing miniseries, and like I said, I even like as you were thinking, my brain also went like, oh crap, everything I just said made total sense, especially because look at Alice, who has power, does not want for that responsibility, and that is her choice. Nobody's, beating her over the head for not being able to cut it.
And Franklin
They
does.
know the sacrifice.
Yeah, he doesn't bat an eye. That's the other thing too. Franklin has any other character in Marvel having that same conversation with somebody who is family. The natural reaction would have been to be like, if I think if she has that conversation with Ben or with Reed, it's an entirely different conversation.
Okay, don't have that conversation with Reed.
Right.
No, yeah. Nobody would. He wouldn't even understand. Like, that's the thing. Reed, like Ben might. Reed would not even understand. I think that's one of the reasons why Franklin just knows what he's got to do, because to Reed, this is what you do. There is no other option. There's no other choice. Because it's his mentality. Like he is so, because we can even talk about like the hubris with Doom. You can tell, at least the way Doom is written here, at least to me, he almost was talking so boastfully and so egotistically, because it was almost a self-soothing gesture to remind himself that he is meant to be in this place. He is actually meant for greatness, that he is not just still, like Reed saw, the little boy that fought hard to be where he was. Because in the end of the day, he's still a very, he was born a very poor, disadvantaged Latvian child that would have not had all of the things if he hadn't worked for them. And he knows that those can be taken away. Versus Reed is so confident and sure of himself, but it comes from, in Doom's mind, comes from, privilege. And to a degree, in terms of Doom's thinking, it is privilege, because Reed didn't, Reed had a lot more resources growing up than Doom did. But
Doom and Reed's relationship is, to me, is always of the type that of the athlete that always was gifted versus the athlete that had to literally put their nose to the grindstone, and it was determination and grit that got them where they're at.
Exactly. And so like I said, you have these two coins. They're still brilliantly gifted minds, but one knows that one can be taken away. And even though Reed knows things can be taken away, he also has that surety of he's got his family that's got his back, and things will always work out as long as he can lean on them. Doom doesn't. And to Reed, because he's so analytical to such a degree that people thought he was a computer with big brain, or people thought his brain was in the computer. It just, you see those two sides of the coin there. Like Reed is going to do what he's going to do because he knows it's what he has to do. Versus some people know they have options, they have choices, and they know that their choices can make or break what they do. Alice, at the end of the day, knew she could not cut it. This was too much for her. This was too stressful. This wasn't there. Just like Jake says, hey, look, I've got this. I've got nothing else I can do looking like this. So I'm going to make the best I'm going to make the best that I can with what I've got. And, I like seeing, like I said, I brought up the, with great power, there must also come great responsibility, because it's one of my favorite quotes. And it's, one of, it's very integral to Spider-Man and Spider-Girl. But I like seeing all these different characters within the MC2 and how their mindset and their kind of mantra and how their character is created, how that applies, and if it does, or if there's another story that can be taught through that. Because like I said, we see Franklin who knows how to make he's going to make that sacrifice. There is no option. And it's backfired on him on that responsibility. But he had that responsibility versus Alice has that power, but she doesn't want that responsibility. And that's why there must come has to be included in that phrase. And Hot Topic thought I was crazy when I asked, when I had to explain that to them on a purse.
Yes, I
yeah,
definitely.
You saw, I sent you that email, right? Where I was yeah,
you did, and I laughed.
So I guess before we end tonight, I will explain that story just so everyone knows exactly what you're dealing with when you talk to me. There was a purse that had the quote, with great power comes great responsibility, but I couldn't read the full quote, so I didn't know if it was possible that it had the full quote, and I got really excited. So I sent them an email, realized how weird it was, just asking that, because I was like, oh God, they're gonna think that I'm like some super nerd and I'm being like super gatekeepy. So I'm gonna like include the screenshots so they know what I'm talking about and they realize that like this is not super serious. And somehow I got called a fake nerd in it. The reply back was like, no, you're wrong on the quote. Even though I showed them the comic, like the comic that has the actual phrase, and then the screenshot from the movie, so they would understand. And they were like, no, it's the real quote.
No, it's not. It's the classic Mandela effect. Because
it's not a Mandela effect. It's okay. It's not a Mandela effect. Because you can pull it back and you can actually see it. What happened was it got paraphrased.
That's true. That's
the
right.
main part, I mean, it was paraphrased before the movie, but it's the movie because, let's be fair, the 2002 Sam Raimi movie is iconic in and of its own right. And the way that it's said in that movie has become like a cornerstone. Like when you quote it, it's there.
I mean, yeah.
And that's how it's going to be. But it's, like I said, it's with great power comes great responsibility means, you have, basically means because you have this power, you have to be responsible versus there must also come, which means with great power, you should use it responsibly.
I mean, if you want to hear the quote from the movie,
with great power comes great responsibility.
There you go. So she's shaking her head in disgust.
It needs to be right.
I know.
Anyway.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was also paraphrased, and I was about to make a John Semper joke about it was paraphrased in the 90s cartoon, and he probably was going to claim that, I wrote it that way. Sorry, John Semper.
No, I mean, he probably, honestly, he probably did. Like I said, it wasn't just him that paraphrased it. It's been paraphrased multiple times. It's been paraphrased in comics. Like, and I get it. Like, I totally get it, because it is a mouthy line. But the original context, I believe, is very important. At least in terms of how, you look at certain characters and see how they approach their responsibility with their great power. Not everyone feels, that they are, like I said, not everyone feels that they are entitled to it.
Bakeman, if you make a bingo card, I'm going to laugh. All right, so we'll go through the comments right quick before we head out. Hello, Mr. Comics 89. Ron Lim did draw that EFT that you were earlier.
We're not. You can go back to when that first dropped. If anybody wants to know my feelings on how NFTs currently work and how that's not a stable business model. Anyway.
Well, now, especially now with the
No, well, what I said, literally, you can see now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, when people have disposable income, you can spend your money on that type of thing. But now that the disposable income is contracted with the economic slowdown that we're starting to experience.
Well, it's also just there's no safety with cryptocurrency.
Exactly, and there's no because it's the Wild West. You're reaping yourself.
It's not even to me. It's not even the Wild West. It is because it's unregulated, but it was intended to be unregulated,
right?
Because it was intended to scam you, and then big businesses were like, "Oh yeah," because they were listening to fancy buzzwords. And this is why you should actually do research and never just listen to fancy buzzwords and believe people because they have money. Honestly, don't believe anyone who has money. That's like if they just in general. Anyway.
Neil says, I feel like either Robbie Thompson or Zdarsky are the best options for Fantastic Four before he actually wrote it. He was actually on board with slot writing it, though. And Galactic85, hello, a new subscriber, says, as someone who loves Slot's mini-series and the Spidey Human Torch mini, thought he was a perfect choice when he was announced. So,
well, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Again, we're not, like I said, no one was meaning to disparage him in any way.
Exactly.
It was just in general, like, I do think somewhere along the way, Marvel has lost the idea that the Fantastic Four is family.
True story. It's Rockefellernomics, as Neil says. SoFlo, hello, SoFlo says it's Marvel or nothing for me, and I'm pissed at them. So, are you thinking of a different Secret Wars mini? I was thinking of the latest Secret Wars mini when I said that, when I was making that statement, Vinkman. So that's the one I was thinking about, Secret Wars 3.
Yeah, but it is still a similar mask, and I think that was done intentionally because, again, I would have liked to have seen something where we did have Franklin talk to Ben, or we did have Franklin really grapple with the fact that he's, I mean, in honesty, he literally got everything he wanted and then lost everything. And this is only he's probably only had his parents together for maybe 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, since he was a kid, or since he was younger. I mean,
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like he only got them back for about 7 months because I think it's a 6-month gap with Mayday.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and Vinkman did correct me. It wasn't Secret Wars 2. It happened during the 90s with the DeFalco Ryan run. I was thinking of Infinity Gauntlet. That's what I was thinking about.
I mean, I'll put it this way. It's not like we did some severe super research to remember and remind ourselves there is so much history and so many things. I know, like, somebody on Twitter said that I was like an expert on Mayday, and I am very touched and honored by that. Mm-hmm. But the only reason I come off like I know anything is because I literally probably read every issue 3 times before we talk about it.
Yeah,
so I don't misremember.
Right, and because we try to prepare as much as we do, I've gotten to that same point. Anytime we're covering something, and I'm trying to, I'll read it. Used to, when I first started doing the shows, even when I was on Crawlspace, I would read it like maybe twice. But now I try to read it 3 or 4 times before I even start doing the recap. Because that way I'm like, okay, as I'm writing this, I'm making sure that I'm familiarizing myself with it. I'm going page by page, and we try to be very meticulous because people like to follow along with us, as you've said in the past. And so by doing that, we dive in, and when I get things wrong, Kelly will correct me, and that's great. But that's just, yeah, we try really hard. I hate the term fake fans because I think it's just such a dismissive and term.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody, I wouldn't ever call anyone like a fake fan. Everyone started somewhere different. And like, I mean, again, off air before we recorded tonight, I had mentioned how the next episode that we cover, because we're covering May's introduction to Carnage, that trade paperback is a lot of people's first time reading Mayday. Because that was kind of one of the first trade paperbacks people saw in Barnes and Noble. And, I distinctly remember it being at Barnes and Noble propped up. I remember the trade paperback, and I'm talking about like, it was probably 2010 by the time last time I saw that paperback on sale, and it was on sale at Islands of Adventure. Like, so there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And are you frozen, Zach?
No, I'm here.
Okay. No, you were like really still, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, crap. But yeah, no, like, I mean, I saw it at Islands of Adventure. Like, it was mass produced because mostly people saw Carnage on the cover. But that was an introduction. And, a lot of people wind up going, some people find that story and then go backwards, or some people just continue it from there. And no matter where you start, or if like right now, most people that know Mayday, especially, when they're in their early 20s, first saw her through Spider-Verse, through those comics, and they know absolutely nothing of this. But if they have a chance to run by a podcast and hear us talking about it, this can make it easier. This can make it easier for people who don't have access to a particular issue, or they're just starting into comics. Like, we don't ever want to make someone feel like they don't belong just because whether they started yesterday or they started reading 10 years ago. That's not ever the intention here.
Things that we talked about, Kelly and I and the team here at Spidey Dude in general, when we started doing our relaunch in 2020, when we went into what I call the second phase of the Spidey Dude Radio Network, one of the things that we really stressed and talked about a lot was making sure that we weren't gatekeepers for our favorite characters, that we were educating people on why we like the characters so much, but not doing it in a way that says that, well, we know more than you do. For those that are audio listeners, I'm kind of making like a ridiculous, stomping my feet type thing motion on the camera, but we don't want to be gatekeepers. We want to be as inclusive as possible and bring people along the journey with us, especially with this show and even with Spidey Dude Experience too. And I just feel like that we've really tried really hard to do that. And you're right. I remember these trades were a big deal for the community. The first trade and this trade especially, because it really was the first time that we got to see in a full-sized format Spider-Girl get collected, starting with the Amazing Run.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think that was the second one, and they almost came out simultaneously, was Whatever Happened to the Daughter of Spider-Man and Here Comes the Carnage, and they were almost released back to back. But what I remember, and I mean, it was for years, and maybe it's just because it didn't really sell, or maybe a lot of people, maybe it sold out immediately and then like a second run came in, but it was on the shelf for years.
Yeah.
Like, you could pick it up and buy it, and it was a lot of people's first time reading Spider-Girl in those kinds of trade paperbacks. And so again, it's going to be a very important episode and a big episode, and it kind of ties into like our last little bit here, which is we're going to focus on it We do want to have a major turnout. We want to see a lot of people kind of hopefully come in and talk to us, because I know it's a big issue. I know it's very important to me. It's one of my favorite stories. And it's one of my favorite stories because, again, it touches base on exactly what we talked about here, what we touched base on in the issue with the Lady Hawks last episode. It's all about choices you make have lasting consequences. And, you have to, there's times you're going to have to make really hard choices and really hard sacrifices, and what that means. Things don't just go back to hunky-dory. The hero doesn't always win in the way that you think they do.
Yeah, and that's life too. I mean,
it is. It's life. And, again, like I said, like in a world of instant gratification, I think we've really lost sight on some reality. And I know I'm saying that about a comic book featuring someone with spider powers. But, that's, to me, that's why I love these stories.
Yeah.
That's why I love, what Marvel is supposed to bring to the table, what DC is supposed to bring to the table. The reason we identify with these superheroes is, even though it's fictional and that they can do really, fantastic powers that, we don't have in real life, the stories that they tell are meaningful. The personalities you see and meet in these stories by these characters feel real and human and genuine. And, obviously that is a testament to Tom DeFalco's writing and the whole team, really, in world building.
Yes.
Because, again, this is the last time we see these characters mainly. And, it doesn't feel like we had a proper send-off with them. Like, we don't really get to say goodbye. But at the same time, this wraps everything up pretty nicely, even though everything is irrecoverably changed after the happy ending we got in Spider-Girl with Lost in Space.
Yes. So if you want to know what issues we're covering, we're going to be covering issues 9, 10, 11, and 12 of
Bring back the 11 cover. It's my favorite.
Yeah. So the homage covers.
No, 11.
Oh, 11?
11.
11. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
People don't all know this cover, but it is freaking gory and fantastic.
A couple of definite homages if you're a longtime fan of Carnage, definitely with issue 12 and 9. So we'll be definitely.
Yeah.
That Carnage is here. It is a big, big, big set of 4 issues that we'll be covering on the next episode. So.
Yeah. So, in those issues, old friends come back, and May faces a foe of her father's that just can't be met with reason, aka Carnage. And hard choices with serious consequences will be made. And like I said, my big thing is to record that before my little birthday break in September. And, we'll set the date later so everyone knows, since we're kind of already in August. And I want to make sure that we have our date set, that we have time to plan. Mm-hmm. Because I really think that it's going to be a major recording that everybody will want to hang out and chip in. And speaking of which is part of your outro. But feel free to send us an email, drop us a line, send us a voicemail if you want to be featured on the Carnage issue or episode.
As I usually say, the phone number, of course, is 818-925-6631. We'll begin to wrap the show up there. 818-925-6631. It is the phone number for the entire Spidey Dude Radio Network. So let us know what show you're calling about. You can leave us an email at makemymayday@gmail.com or SpideyDudeRadioNetwork@gmail.com. You can also follow our Discord. The link is down in the description below. I'll be sure to include the links to not only this, but also you can follow us on Spotify and stuff like that. Like us on Spotify, like us, and leave us a review also on Apple Podcasts. as well. You can follow us on Facebook at Spidey Dude Network, Twitter at Spidey Dude Radio. You can follow me there. You can follow Kelly on Twitter at Make Mine Mayday. The YouTube page, if you're not watching us on YouTube, it's youtube.com/Spidey Dude Radio Network. Instagram is the same as the Facebook page, Instagram.com/Spidey Dude Network. You can also follow Kelly at KMcDaniel28 on Instagram. Kelly, do you still have TikTok?
I mean, I do. I just haven't been on it.
No.
I need more content. People give me ideas to do duets with and stuff, I guess, really, because like I've ran out of things to do for Mayday.
Well, there you go. Follow her on Make My Mayday and comment on the existing video ideas for who to duet with, and definitely would love to see other Spider-Girl or MC2 characters. That'd be kind of fun. I also have TikTok at Spidey Network as well. Usually going to be me hyping up the various shows. I am not savvy with the TikToks, so just bear with me. Venkman says, fantastic show as always. Please take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys next time. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Once again, I want to mention our Patreons before we leave. Thank you again to Venkman, Scott, Jurgen, Greg, Phoenician, Georgia, Cindy, and Kale. Thank you guys for your support. You can support us on patreon.com/Spidey Dude Radio Network. Thanks to all our patrons. Thanks to you that are watching and listening, giving us a like and a share, a subscribe. And we will definitely see you next time here on Make My Mayday. Where we're going to be covering the Carnage arc. I'm really, really excited about it. And of course, you can always find our other great shows, such as Spidey Dude Experience here on the channel as well. We got a coming up soon. We'll have a video essay about Ben Reilly coming very soon. We also have a unboxing of the Hot Toys, new Hot Toys Spider-Man from the PS4 game. So that's a fun little thing that Javi's put together for you guys. And so much more here on the Spidey Radio Network. Also, check out the finale of Clone Saga Chronicles. It was a really emotional one. You can always check out our other shows, such as this one, and Spectacular Radio and Voices from the Eerie. Cannot wait for you guys to hear in September. Brent Spiner, from Star Trek. I'm really, really excited about that episode. Continue listening to that and continue supporting that and all the shows here on the Spidey Radio Network, including Amazing Spider-Man Classics as well. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time here on the Spidey Dude Radio Network.